All right, let's get some legal analysis. Joining us on the line, Director at BDK Attorneys, Ulrich Roux. Thank you for being with us. Mr. Roux, is it fair enough to say that this couldn't have gone better for those who believe that the President should have his day in court?
Hi, thank you for having me. Yes, certainly a very interesting judgment. I think that from the outset, everyone thought that the appointment of the previous, Shaun Abrahams would not be regarded as a lawful appointment given the golden handshake that his predecessor had received. But I think the court went one step further in, confirming that the President himself, facing 783 charges of fraud and corruption, is not allowed to appoint the next head of the NPA. The function of the NPA obviously being seen in a very serious light by the court, and I think a very good judgment at the end of the day.
Let's start with that golden handshake between Ngasana and the President, seeing Ngasana leaving as the NPA head. He said basically that it was a bribe. Now, the court has said that he must pay it back. Because of it, he cannot be appointed as prosecution's head. Could this go even further? Does it open them both up possibly to criminal action?
Well, if it can be seen as a bribe, or if the court sees it as being a bribe, then obviously they would have to be able to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. I think it is more a case of, and I've said this earlier as well today, is that one must see this judgment today in the political climate that surrounds it. And that is, to be frank, it was a situation which the court found today in its judgment where the President, Mr. Zuma, realized that the previous head of the NPA would not just be a henchman and a so-called puppet of the Presidency, and that he would not agree with any decisions whereby the President could not be prosecuted, and thus he got rid of him. Mr. Ngasana accepted a golden handshake of 17 million rand. He effectively resigned, and it could be seen as a retrenchment. And then the appointment of Shaun Abrahams, obviously, then a lot of scrutiny surrounding it. People saying that it was only as a result of the fact that he would protect the President in his position currently and protect him from possible prosecution to follow. But if they allege that it was a so-called bribe, then they would have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. I think in Mr. Ngasana's defense, from the outset, he said that he's willing to repay the 17 million rand. He, from the outset, also said that he had no choice but to accept it. He was forced to accept it, and he was pushed into a corner, and he had no alternative. But that would have to be scrutinized in a different court. I think the most important aspect of today's judgment is that payment and that so-called golden handshake and his resignation is completely unlawful, and obviously all the repercussions flowing from that.
All right. So what is the situation right now? Shaun Abrahams apparently still in the job, but his days are numbered unless the appeal works. How's it all going to play out?
Well, all we've seen is that the President has come out and said that he intends to appeal the decision. There's been no application for leave to appeal. There's been no papers filed. There's been nothing of that sort. So pending that, the decision of the High Court stands. The time period which has been given to Mr. Abrahams to vacate his position, I don't think we are certain of. But one would expect that come the new year, he would have vacated his position, and then the Deputy President has 60 days within which to choose a new head of the NPA. And I think a very measured judgment by the court, saying that it mustn't be a rushed decision. It mustn't be, something that Mr. Ramaphosa has pushed into. He must consider all his options, and he must appoint the right person for the job. I think once again we must consider the surrounding circumstances pertaining to this decision, and that is that the NPA is there to ensure that our laws are adhered to in this country. And if someone transgresses those laws and commits a crime, the NPA is there to ensure that they pay for it and that they are brought to book. So to have a person who has been unlawfully in that position for the last 2 years causes a lot of distress and places a lot of uncertainty on the position of the head of the NPA. So it is a decision that needs to be made after having thought about it properly and after having considered all the relevant scenarios, and then appointing the right person. But the NPA itself will continue, and it must continue, because our judicial system keeps on running, the court system keeps on running as well, and obviously if people allegedly have committed a crime, they must be brought to book. So one would expect now that the deputy head of the NPA would come to the fore and lead the NPA pending the appointment of the new head.
Very quickly, Mr. Roux, what are the prospects for this appeal? And of course, like you've been saying, this is also important because if somebody new comes in, they are the person that will determine how the case against the president himself is handled.
Yes, definitely. So with any appeal, the prospects are dependent upon the chances of a success of appealing to a higher court. So is there any reasonable chance of success if a higher court considers all the facts at hand? My initial opinion is that there is not. Again, considering all the political interference in this matter, I don't think that there's a big chance on appeal. I don't think we must be too surprised that the president has indicated that he intends to appeal it. But we will have to wait and see. You would have to approach the appeal court in Bloemfontein. And if the appeal court dismisses his application, then, the new head of the NPA must take his position as soon as possible.
All right, thank you very much. That was some analysis from the director at BDK Attorneys, lawyer himself, Ulrich Roux.